All right, here we go. Hey! Oh man, she just starts right up and idles like a stock truck. That was the whole goal, right? Got good oil pressure. Good voltage. I think we got it. Oh, we're leaking something. Oh, what are we leaking? Holy smokes. Oh, we're leaking transmission fluid. Ah. I should have known. I don't know if you can see it down there, but we got a pinhole leak in one of the transmission cooler lines. I should have known. Something was going to happen. It wasn't going to go perfect. I should have known that. But I thought they looked okay. Oh well. All right, everybody. Well, it runs. And no surprise, really. Of course, something was going to go wrong. And that transmission cooler line is leaking. But it's okay. If that's what had to go wrong, I'm fine with it. Especially, this truck didn't come with an auxiliary cooler. It doesn't have the external cooler here in the front, which means that the coolest the transmission fluid will ever get going through the radiator is about 210 degrees. And based on my research and what I've learned about transmissions, 230 degrees is where you start doing transmission damage. It starts to bake the seals, the fluid loses the lubricity that it's supposed to have. So I really prefer for my transmissions to be around like 170, 180 normal operating temperature. And I wanted to address that anyway, so this just kind of forces my hand. I ordered the transmission cooler lines for a four-wheel drive truck last night, which will come with the plumbing to move them out in front of the radiator for an auxiliary cooler. And I'll put one of the big True Cool 40K trans coolers on it that I've done on some of my other projects. And that'll get that, it'll keep that transmission happier for longer, I think. But for this video, what I want to work on is getting everything sorted out electronically, make sure the truck is otherwise 100% ready to go. So after I had it running for a couple of minutes, I had a check engine light come on. I know what the check engine light is from. My downstream oxygen sensors are not connected. So I'm going to get that sorted out. And I'm also going to check and see if there's any other DTCs in it, diagnostic trouble codes, that I need to address as well. And then after that, the brake light and brake warning light were both on, which I was not expecting that because I didn't mess with the brake system, aside from hooking and unhooking the vacuum supply line to the booster. So I want to pull those codes and see why those lights are on also. So I've got my laptop, HP tuners. I'm going to hop in here, see if I can find out why the check engine light was on, take care of that, make sure it's nothing I wasn't expecting, and then I'll get into the brake light. Okay, everybody, so this is going to be fairly straightforward on this one. I've already downloaded the stock tune out of the PCM. I saved it as a stock file, and now I need to remove that. So in order to do that, I'm going to go into the System tab. Under General, I see Security, VATS Control. I'm going to set it to None. Okay. And that's all I need to do. Now, I'm going to make one. Actually, I'm not. I'm just going to do that, and then I'm going to go see if the thing starts. Before I do that, though, I need to save it as a new file in here. And I'm going to create the folder to save it in. And then I'm going to say it stop tune. That's deleted. 6/26/23. There we go. Save it. Now I need to write the computer. I have to license it. Oh, look at that. I can unlock unlimiteds. Okay. Yes, I'm sure. Now this is important. In order to get VATS off of it, you need to do write entire. Click write. And now we just wait for it to finish. It's important when you do this, you don't want the battery to go dead. You don't want to turn the key off. Not like, basically just leave the entire truck alone. Do something else, you know. Watch my latest video for 4 minutes while you wait for this thing to do its rewrite of the computer with VATS taken out. And then there we go. She's all finished up. It says write completed in green. That's it. Close it out. And then disconnect it. That's all there is to it. Okay, so I'm logged in here. Pulled up the code history. And I've got the first 4 trouble codes I have here are all for sensor 2, sensor 2, sensor 2, sensor 2, which are the downstream O2 sensors. So I know why that's happening. I'm going to take care of that. Loss of EBCM communication. I'm thinking that is because I had the battery disconnected for so long. And then class 2 short to battery, I'm not sure what that may be from. So I'm going to fix the the downstream oxygen sensor codes real quick. And then I'm going to clear all the codes and see if those come back. I took care of those downstream oxygen sensor codes, cleared the codes, rewrote the PCM now so it won't be looking for those downstream oxygen sensors. And now, let's check here. Now I'm not getting any DTCs, okay? Check engine light is on because it's just the ignition on, the engine's not running. So it's upset because there's no oil pressure. So I'm gonna do a temporary repair on the transmission cooler line just so I can actually start the truck, get it through a heat cycle or two, and make sure that all the coolant, all the air bubbles are worked out of the cooling system, all the fluids are topped off, etc., just so this thing's 100%. And then there's a couple other little electronic changes I need to make that I'll show you. I did my temporary repair on the transmission cooler line. I think you can see it down there. And then started the truck, and it started leaking in 2 more places. So I think those transmission cooler lines it's not worth me spending a bunch of time and effort trying to repair those lines when I should be having replacement lines here in the next day or 2. So they're just gonna have to, I just won't be able to run it for now, which is fine. But I did start it, like I said, and the check engine light didn't come on. Those codes did not come back. So like I said, I'm fairly confident they were just from the battery being disconnected for so long. So then I got my other tool here that'll read the brake control module and the anti-lock brake module. And I've got a bunch of codes: no state of health for module, loss of powertrain control module communications, loss of brake control communications, loss of instrument panel communications, loss of communications BCM.
Sophie said,
it's all, these trucks communicate using a CAN bus module wiring system. So they all talk through the same wire. And when I disconnected the engine harness, even though I had the battery out already, all of those modules, they all have capacitors in them to keep the memory alive, even with the battery out of the truck. So I'm sure they were trying to talk to each other and couldn't find each other. So I'm going to clear all those codes too, and then I think we probably should be good at that point. I don't see anything that says like there's a problem elsewhere, so I think if I can do that, I think we'll be good. Alright, so I cleared those brake codes out, and now we have no warning lights except for the hey, put your seatbelt on light, because my seatbelt's not on. So, oh, well, shoot. There they are, they came back. Alright, so I gotta figure out why those lights keep coming back on then. I wonder if those same codes came back. Maybe I've got a wire not in the right place or something like that. I have to look.
6.5 hours later.
Alright everybody, so this thing's kind of kicking my butt. I cannot for the life of me figure out what is triggering that ABS light and that parking brake light. I've checked, triple checked, quadruple checked the parking brake lever. It's all the way up like it should be. The switch is how it should be. I can't find any wiring issues anywhere. I didn't do anything to the brakes at all. The only way I even touched the braking system is disconnecting the vacuum supply line from the 4.3 and then reconnecting the vacuum supply line for the 5.3. So I don't know why those lights are on now. I can't figure out how to get them off. But I did at least get the transmission cooler lines fixed. Got the transmission cooler on the front. Once I'm sure and satisfied that it's not going to leak, I'll tidy it up a little bit and spray some black spray paint on there. But there it is. It's running. So I've run it a little bit here to let it get up to operating temp. I'm going to shut the key off and let it turn off and cool back down. The fans have not come on yet, but it also hasn't gone over 210. So I'll have to look in the computer program in the tune and see where the fans are supposed to come on at, and then I mean, maybe they don't come on until you get to over 210, which it hasn't done. It's just been sitting here idling, and it's been staying right at just shy of 210. So I'm not sure, but I think I'm satisfied enough. I'm pretty confident that it's not something under the hood that's triggering this light. So I have one more thing that I need to do here in the truck, and that is change the gauge cluster. This cluster obviously is calibrated for a V6, so the tachometer isn't quite right. I have a cluster for a V8 that also has transmission temperature in it, so I'm going to swap that cluster in and get the mileage matched up to it, and then I'll get everything else put back together. So let me do that. So I got my gauge cluster swapped out. Still that dang ABS warning light and parking brake warning light on, but otherwise got the mileage only like 2 miles off, so that's excellent. And the Tach is reading correctly now, which is what we needed.
Wheels of fortune, prosperity, spell.
So,
Variable subtypes, contingent.
guess next thing to do is get everything else put back together. Get all the front end on it, get some paint sprayed on that new transmission cooler and kind of blend it in. Bunch of little unexciting stuff. I'll bring you back when there's an update worth sharing. Alright team, well, it's the next day now. I left off with I could not figure out why those ABS and park brake warning lights were on. And I was getting frustrated, so I decided to take a break from that and get the front end of the truck all put back together. So like I said, I added my big True Cool 40K transmission cooler back there. Got it painted flat black to match so it kind of blends in. That's how I like them. And got all the front end put back on, bumper, headlights, headlight supports, blah 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 blah. Got all that stuff on. Got the transmission topped off, coolant topped off. So was moving through that and I found the problem. I figured out why those brake lights were on. If you're familiar with these trucks, you'll already recognize this. If you're not, this is important. I've said it in a lot of videos before, but weird stuff happens when you don't have your grounds all connected, making good contact. And on these trucks, there are two main ground wires to the battery. There's your large gauge wire that runs down at grounds to the side of the engine block, right behind the power steering pump. Then you have a smaller gauge wire, this one right down here. They both come into your negative terminal on the battery. That smaller gauge wire runs down between the core support and the body mount, and then bolts to the front of the body mount behind this bumper with a 10mm bolt. Now, that ground acts as the primary ground for the chassis. The body is grounded to the motor grounded to the battery, but the chassis, everything that functions off of that, the ABS pump, the fuel pumps, some of the communication modules, they all ground through the chassis. And without that ground wire hooked up behind that front bumper, I had no chassis ground. So I got that hooked up, and now this thing is doing exactly what it should be doing. Starts right up. All the lights go off. She's all set. The only light is because I don't have my seatbelt buckled, but buckle up and that light goes off, and everything else is doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing now. I've got no lights, I've got no codes, all of my temperature gauges all of my gauges are working. RPM, trans temp, speedometer, fuel level, oil pressure, voltage, and coolant temperature. Everything is doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing. Air conditioning is functioning how it's supposed to be functioning. So everything is working exactly how it's supposed to be working now. And the problems I was having, it was just that wire to the frame, the chassis ground. So runs great. I'm really happy with it. All I have left now is I got to get the hood bolted back onto this thing, and then I got to take it for a test drive.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
Alright everybody, so hopefully you can hear me. Something else electronic that I've been trying to get corrected on this thing. I took it out for a test drive and the tach didn't seem like it was reading right. So I came back and I used the VCM scanner here in HP Tuners to check the RPM, because I wanted to see what RPM the PCM was reading versus what RPM the tach was displaying. And as I suspected, the tach was displaying a couple, like 250, 300 RPM higher than the PCM was actually showing. So the way I corrected that is I went back into my tune file in HP Tuners, and under the engine tab, general tab, you can see over here you have Tach output. Now from the factory, the Tach output in this PCM was 6. Okay, so I had to make some changes. So I needed to change this to get it to output the correct signal to the Tach in the truck, so my RPM would read accurately. So I started at 6. It was at 6 when I got in here. I bumped it down to 4. Well, that made the Tach read even higher. Then it was off by almost 2,000 RPM. Or, excuse me, by about 1,500 RPM. So I came back in and I changed it to 7. 7 got me within about 100 RPM of where I wanted to be. So I was moving in the right direction. I came back in again, changed it to 8, and then started the truck up, checked it, and now my Tach is reading exactly what the live scanning is showing here in HP Tuners. At 500 RPM in HP Tuners on the live data feed, my Tach is reading the needles pointed right at 500. Same at 1,000, same at 3,000, same at 4,000, all the way up. So that was how I corrected in the PCM to make the Tach actually display what RPM the engine is at. Well, team, I think that wraps up the electrical portion of the swap here. Got it out on a test drive. Noticed that the Tach was not reading correctly. The speedometer was not reading correctly. Realized I had to fix those in HP Tuners, so went in, got those taken care of like you saw. And other than that, ran and drove beautifully. No problems, no issues, no warning lights, no check lights, no nothing. Just drove around like it came from the factory that way, which was the exact goal. So that's it on this video. That's it on this portion of the project. I guess next time you see, or I guess next update on this project, the old 4.3 to 5.3 swap will be an update on how it's been doing since then, or since now. Thanks a lot for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed. I do want to do one more follow-up video on this, just some of the other differences that you should be aware of if you're going to be trying to swap a 4.3 truck to a V8, and I'll see you in that one. Until then, though, thanks for watching. Take care.